the Bible. Or something, I don't know. Narrated by Jesse Levine. Good evening, everyone. This is your host, Jess, and finally, I am now brandable. I can be used in merchandise in future projects now. I am no longer a copyrighted material owned by another company. I am free. I am free to do what I want. And what I want to do is discuss one of my favorite game series of all time, Divinity Original Sin. Even though I haven't beaten the first one, I've beaten the second one. Don't ask me about the first one. Reason being is that a trailer came out for Divinity. Not Divinity Original Sin. No, Original Sin has been completely crossed off. It is gone. It's gone forever. There is no Original Sin now. So now I am left to wonder what that entails, because in Divinity Original Sin 1, you're like, these sorcerer guys who do crazy things with magic, we gotta beat them with sticks. In Divinity Original Sin 2, you're the sorcerer guys, and you're like, we gotta beat these people with sticks. And which people were those? The people I didn't like. But I found it confusing. What does removing Original Sin from the title actually entail? I had a talk with my best friend Sven about it, and he gave me some kind of like riddle to answer in order to figure this out. He was like, well, what do you think it means when the thing is removed from the title? I was like, that's way too confusing. I don't get it. And so I had to put on my thinking cap. I really had to channel my inner Matt Pat here. I had to game theorize on what this could mean. If we're thinking about the obvious, it could mean a prequel. Removing Original Sin from the title entails that it came before the Original Sin. And what was the Original Sin? Jaywalking. And why is jaywalking such a bad sin? That's because you could get hit by a car, and it's actually really dangerous. I don't recommend you do that. Sometimes, you may not be looking the proper way and get accidentally hit by a car, I really care about you and really like you to not be hit by a car. So Divinity would obviously predate motor vehicles, so you don't see anyone getting into car accidents, anything like that. No pedestrians are going to be hurt or anything like that nature. I don't think this is the case. I feel like this is way too easy to just cut off the title and just make it a prequel, talk about some lore from like one game that you'll figure out what the Original Sin was, and then you'll be like, oh, now that makes sense. I can see why that would be an Original Sin. It would cause a lot of problems. It would actually cause a lot of groups to fight over things like resources and stuff in that nature, and actually be very aggressive to them, even though they haven't shown any aggressive towards them at all, depending on the group of people that you're actually talking about. But it feels too easy, I feel like they're laying out breadcrumbs for like a trap with a box in it. They want you to hold on to this piece because it's like, oh, that would make so much sense. And then they're going to trap you inside while they hold the real plot to themselves. And where's the fun in losing the pursuit of the chase? I am not one who's a big fan of losing. I'm a big fan of winning and beating people up with sticks because I find it funny. I want to actually analyze the trailer, and I want to analyze the actual name. So first we'll go off with the name. Divinity. It's supposedly talk about godhood, things like that. All right. So, what problems come with godhood? Well, have you ever read anything about Greece? And then along came Zeus. He hurled his swan at... I don't really feel like I have to actually finish that sentence. I feel like it's actually rather self-explanatory. And so even though gods are these highly respected beings, well, they tend to cause a lot of problems in pursuit of their own self-interest because, to be fair, what else are they going to do? It's not like they really have anything pressing to do. They don't file taxes or anything. They're not really doing much. They're kind of just bored, They're kind of just sitting around waiting, like kicking their feet in the dirt, like, man, I just want to wait until someone does something bad and then I can do something. So yeah, the first part is quite obvious. And removing Original Sin implies that probably a divine being did not actually commit a sin in order to create the events of the games. Well, actually, I would say divine beings, because there are a lot of the divine beings that commit a lot of sins in the games a lot of the time. And that would make sense. Okay, so the title so far makes sense. And the removal of Original Sin implies that nothing has been committed, right? So now that we have the other part removed, let's actually look at the trailer right here. We got our classic cult worship thing. Something horrible happens. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so is this setting this up as a sin? The likelihood of that being a yes is extremely high, but yet I have a doubt. I have several doubts as to why this is the Original Sin. I don't think this sets up anything to do with the original sin whatsoever. Because, keep in mind, the name of the game is Divinity, right? So this would have had to have been a godly being to have committed this sin. These are just random people just committing sacrifices, you know? They're not divine, they're just meat bags who are gonna die in like 50 years from syphilis, you know? I mean, like, they're not ascending, they're not ever long and lasting. Is the person that they're dedicating the sacrifice to probably the divine being? Yes, but they are not committing a divine sin. More accurately, the divine are not committing sins that affect many, many groups of people. Does it imply that their worship and the use of this sacrifice might imply that the divine are encouraging very bad behavior? Yes. But did they commit the behavior themselves? No, I don't think they actually did commit the behavior themselves. Not even behavior. The Dead by Daylight people did something like that, and they got this weird guy called the Entity who's like absorbing like copyrighted materials every day. In the trailer, you do see a lot of gloop glop glam coming out of this. So could that possibly be part of the original sin? I don't think so either. You know, someone just forgot to turn off their Christmas lights, you know, like sometimes that happens, and you know, eventually like you get a bunch of corpses on the side of the road. That just tends to happen. But my theory is this. I think the game is actually a sequel to Divinity Original Sin 2. Now, here is my logic, right? So, if you think about it, at the end of Divinity Original Sin 2, you're like, man, what a great adventure. So you're like, oh, me, the player, I'm so cool, I'm so awesome, I'm so great, I'm so grand, I'm so wonderful, right? The divine beings that committed the original sin now, at the end of this game, are no longer as cool as you because, you know, you're like, you know, I beat the game, I'm so cool, I'm so powerful, I'm so wonderful. So that means your divinity actually outranks those who are divine before you, right? So you're like the most ultra divine, olive branch, grapefruit thing, whatever that has ever existed, right? So this now implies that the original sin has been wiped off the face of the map. It's gone. The original sin is gone. Or it implies that there's now going to be a second big sin that will cause many, many problems. And the one who's going to cause the problems is you. With all of this power that you now have at your fingertips, you know, of course you're going to go mad with power. You're not a divine being of good. You're a divine being of boredom. Because the player is bored, and you know what? They want spice. They want conflict. And so they're going to do horrible, horrible things in order to get their way, right? They're going to go out and about and say, you know what? This world is wrong. It's too happy. And the player is going to be causing the great sin that will destroy the world and have to get another group of people to beat people with sticks. Because the most sinful being in the world is people in RPGs who have no punishments whatsoever and commit unknown acts of terror upon people who really don't deserve it. And, you know, maybe they just want to smell cheese, or maybe they just want to talk about how something smells like a bunch of rotten eggs, right? But, you know, they were slaughtered to get XP in order for you to become a god. You heartless monster.